Greetings, friends. I am Vitaly Portnikov. The new government of the Netherlands has started its work. And despite the fact that the leader of the far-right Freedom Party, Geert Wilders, who is known for his controversial views on immigration and Islam, declined the position of Prime Minister, the ministers from his party themselves, of course, represent a perfect cross-section of the political trends we are observing in Europe. These trends include the rise of nationalism and economic disparities, which contribute to the strengthening of far-right and far-left forces. Geert Wilders says that he is undeniably and indeed very proud of his ministers because they represent ordinary people and speak the language of the streets. Nevertheless, one of the ministers, who had been in office for several years, was forced to stop using the term population replacement when discussing migrants due to increasing public and political pressure. Another respected individual has recently resigned from the supervisory board of a company that was recently fined for spreading false and misleading information, commonly referred to as fake news. This company. The third was, indeed, forced to renounce their Hungary passport. Why? A Hungarian passport for a Dutch citizen? This is because Viktor Orban's Hungary, which has been recently known as the main refuge and beacon for representatives of far-right political views, has become a significant point of interest. And therefore, one of the activists of the far-right Dutch Freedom Party was, in fact, actually a citizen and indeed an honorary consul of Hungary. But now, holding such views means success in parliamentary election campaigns and even more so a ministerial portfolio in modern times, indeed. The formation of the government in the Netherlands is indeed just part of the trend we observe when talking about modern Europe, in fact. On that particular day, when the media were actively discussing the detailed composition of the newly formed government of the Netherlands and marveling at the intricate biographical details in the various stories about the newly appointed ministers, Viktor Orban himself was in Kiev, urging the Ukrainian president to urgently call for a ceasefire in the ongoing war with Russia. Orban, who until recently seemed to be the most marginal and insignificant leader of a government in a European Union member country, is now not only presiding over the European Union, but also actively creating and establishing a new and influential, significant, and impactful faction in the European Parliament. At the same time, the parties participating in this faction aim to join the Hungarian Prime Minister in order to successfully and effectively form the governments of their countries collaboratively, with the aim of achieving their goals. In any case, this can indeed also be said about Viktor Orban's colleagues from Austria and the Czech Republic. Thus, radical political trends are no longer a marginal issue, especially in modern society. And the future results of the parliamentary elections in France should indeed only convince us, undoubtedly, of the correctness of this thesis in the near future. Yes, it is indeed hard to disagree that the ministers proposed by the far-right Dutch Freedom Party for their country's government undoubtedly and certainly, without a doubt, speak the language of the streets. But the problem is that the public tends to seek simple answers to complex questions, while a serious and responsible politician must offer society various options for addressing the difficult challenges currently facing modern Europe and the West, by providing thorough explanations and well-detailed plans that consider the multifaceted nature of the issues and their long-term implications. The fact that far-right and far-left political forces are clearly gaining strength indicates that people no longer want to hear about such options more and more. That they are, in fact, increasingly leaning towards simple answers and solutions. But those who can provide simple answers to complex questions are unlikely to demonstrate competence in any way at all or even. And therefore, in the coming years, we may face a series of crises in those countries that recently seem to be important examples of making the right decisions in economic development and political trends. These countries, which were once seen as models of success, may now encounter significant challenges and obstacles. The Netherlands, by the way, is by no means an exception to this general rule, as it too may experience similar difficulties and issues in the near future. Because it is not even about the ministers' biographies, but about the fact that their worldview is unlikely to allow them to make adequate decisions in the departments they will head in any significant and meaningful way or manner. Among these departments, by the way, is the Ministry of Economy, which is a significant and influential body within the government. The head of this ministry was a citizen of Hungary until he was proposed as a candidate for a high-ranking position in the new government. And the more radicals receive ministerial positions in various sectors in the governments of European countries, the more problems and challenges will arise for the European Union itself in the near future. This is not just a trend of radical views. This is a trend of rejecting professionalism and replacing serious, real, meticulous political work with imitation in various forms and manifestations. We will face this imitation in Europe and the West as a whole in the coming months and years, in different sectors of society and governance. And this is despite the fact that the civilized world faces serious, significant, and complex challenges, such as Russia and China's attempts to undermine the European project and do everything possible to strengthen their own roles, influence, and power, at least in Europe. And those who have rather illusory and unrealistic views on relationships with authoritarian regimes, and sometimes even express sympathy and support for these oppressive dictatorships, can also play a significant role in the fact that we do not see any real, reasonable, and effective responses to this complex and challenging issue. Thank you, dear friends. Please stay on this channel, subscribe to it, follow my social media, and please participate in the development of this channel. Good luck!